Battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hello everyone, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm doing this show solo today. So folks, if you want to call in, participate in the conversation, give me a call, 585-346-3000. And of course, jump online if you are on Facebook or you are on YouTube or you're on Twitter. I'm happy to hear from you. In fact, I am already getting comments, so thank you for listening, folks. And the subject that I put in the title today for online is that Rochester now has its own George Floyd situation. And at least that's what folks are comparing it to. And if you were listening on the radio right before this, you heard the News 10 NBC update on some of the stuff going on with that. And so yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about what's going on. You know, I'm trying to look at this situation, evaluate the facts, see what happened, and let's talk about like what are the solutions to this? Like, how can we prevent stuff like this from happening? And I don't have all the answers. I want to be upset and frustrated at times, and also like how do we prevent something like this from happening in the future with an individual like Daniel Prude. So let me just go over the facts of what happened, and I'm going to be looking at kind of two sources for this. One from City Newspaper and one from Democrat and Chronicle. I want to give those guys credit for the work. Just to let you know, guys, I'm not doing firsthand reporting on a lot of this stuff. We're always talking about the kind of the analysis of these issues. So I'm not really doing firsthand reporting, but I do want to give credit where credit's due. So I'll be looking at those two sources, and I'll post the links in the comments for those of you listening online if you want to follow along. Now, anyway. So here's what's going on. It's starting to blow up into a national story. A gentleman named Daniel Prude died in Rochester police custody. This was an event that happened way back in March. So this was a while ago. We'll talk about whether or not this is a kind of a cover-up situation, but let's just go over what happened. So Daniel Prude was a guy who was definitely having a mental health crisis. And I'm not. I don't want to do anything to like make light of the situation. That's not why I'm saying this. But he was clearly having an issue. He had been in strong for mental health detention previously, and on this night in March, he was out in the snow, in the cold. He went out in his underwear, and then he stripped down to nothing. He was wandering around naked in the street, shouting. So very clearly having a mental health crisis, and his brother called the police to try to bring him in and to get him in safely because he was having a problem. But when in the process of bringing him in, the police were able to detain him. He was cooperating initially. Apparently the situation changed a bit, and he was getting agitated, and he was getting frustrated because they were they're trying to detain him, but he was already under control by that point, and they put a spit bag over his head because he was also saying something about how he had coronavirus, allegedly. That's apparently what he was saying, and so he was yelling around. And this was a time when, remember, back in March, we didn't know what was going on. People were terrified, so they put this bag over his head. And then they put him face down on the pavement, and they apparently put pressure on his back, put pressure on his face, had him down to the pavement for a couple minutes, and in that time, he stopped breathing. And so he had died in not quite then yet, but he had stopped breathing. The Monroe County Medical Examiner said that his death was homicide. It's caused by complications of asphyxia in the setting of physical restraint. That's what the autopsy report said. And so, yeah, he was apparently they were able to get him breathing again shortly after that, but his brain had been deprived of oxygen for so long that he didn't ultimately survive that incident. Again, so Daniel Prude had died in police custody, and I'm trying to give this to you guys as objectively as possible, and again, I've shared some links so you guys can follow along, participate in the discussion, because I think this is gonna be a big thing. We've already seen a lot of reaction locally to it. I think we're gonna see some reaction nationally in the same way protests picked up after the Jacob Blake incident that we had talked about on the show. Last week or a couple weeks ago. So yeah, after this happened, after Daniel died, there was an investigation. The Rochester Police Department started an internal investigation. Laurent Singletary apparently contacted the district attorney's office and had them look into it. But shortly after that, it was passed along to the New York State Attorney General's office. So they are doing now a criminal investigation of the officers involved with that incident with Daniel Prude when he had died in their custody. So again, there are 3 officers who were there. They were, they had their body weight on them, and that's what happened. And you'll hear other folks who are gonna say like, oh, was he on drugs? Was there something else going on? Again, we've pretty clearly established it's a mental health crisis. But yeah, there was traces of PCP in his system a little bit. It's hard to say what sort of factor that had in all this. He was yelling too, like, you're trying to kill me. He was also yelling about like grabbing their gun. So again, just a terrible, ugly situation. The thing that's going to be controversial about that and whether or not the police officers had a role and are liable for this death, both criminally and possibly civilly, but we'll talk about that in a bit, is there's a condition called, what's it called? Excited delirium. You're going to hear about that. And basically just some folks are going to say, well, because he might have been intoxicated with PCP, he's going through a mental health crisis, that these are contributing factors to Daniel Prude's death. And so again, I'm trying to just give you guys the facts at this point and just talk about what actually happened. Because I can see some of the comments coming, and I promise you guys who are listening online, I will get to those comments. But just trying to go over what happened here. So that's what you're going to hear from people, is they're going to say excited delirium, that prompted physical restraint, that contributed to his body reacting the way it did to that physical restraint. Now, that this is a controversial thing. It's what is often cited as contributing to the cause of death when police are restraining individuals who are intoxicated in some way or going through a mental health crisis. And so, we see it becomes an excuse in some of these things to say that, well, this isn't really our fault in this situation. Again, not passing judgment on that yet, but that's what happened. But, yeah, you can hear. In fact, you can hear what there's video of this too. So there's police body cam video. You can hear them talking about this. You can hear them talking about the cause of excited delirium. And they're saying, I guess that's how they coded. and the medics there, the paramedics there, saying it's not your fault. You've got to keep yourself safe, things like that. But looking at how many people have responded in the city of Rochester, they don't buy that there's a lot wrong with this incident. And again, if you look at the body cam footage, it's terrible. Like no, it's very upsetting if you look at that. And if you have the stomach for it, I suggest you do. So again, when your friends and neighbors ask you about this incident, you can at least be informed and understand what happened, and have a good fact-based discussion about something that locally may become part of the national narrative about addressing policing issues. All right, running out of time for this segment. We've covered the facts. Now let's talk about what's next and what do we do about stuff like this. Thanks again for listening to Radio Free New York. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Escape from the everyday to a getaway at Woodcliff Hotel and Spa. Woodcliff features elegantly appointed accommodations, creative cuisine, themed suites, full-service spa Elan, and is Rochester's best venue for outdoor wedding receptions overlooking the city skyline. Woodcliff Hotel and Spa, where the experience is extraordinary. Located in Fairport, call 585-381-4000 or visit woodcliffhotelspa.com.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host, and appreciate you listening. We're live here from noon to 1 on WYSL, so if you want to participate in this conversation, give us a call, 585-346-3000. Again, that's 585-346-3000. I'd love your input, because I know that there are going to be a lot of strong feelings about this, and I'm trying to figure this out like the rest of you. And of course, shout out to our friends on the line over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot, down in the Southern Tier. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank you for folks who are listening online, too. And let me get to some of those comments. Yvonne said they want the Mayor Warren and Chief Singletary to resign. So some of the folks who are doing press conferences this morning in the city were calling for the mayor's and the chief of police's resignations. And a lot of the reason why is because people are looking at this like Daniel Prude died on March 30th. He died, 5 months ago, a little over 5 months ago. So why is the public just hearing about this incident now? Why wasn't this public news? And what the mayor is saying, the mayor is saying they initiated an investigation and they didn't bring it out to the public because they wanted to let that investigation conclude. And right now, that investigation is in the hands of the New York Attorney General. So they didn't want to bring this to the public until they had the facts of that investigation on their hands. So that's what I said. But believe it, don't believe it. Some people are saying the mayor and the chief of police are covering up an incident. We also have the mayor talking about how Rochester's better on policing issues. We had Mike Mazzio, who's the head of the local police union, the Locust Club, say that incidents like this don't happen in Rochester. I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, so I don't have the exact quote in front of me. So people are talking about him as well, and I'd love to actually have him or other folks on to talk about this. Call the station and we'll talk about it again. We're not afraid to have those conversations here. That's why people are asking though Mayor Lovely Warren and Chief Singletary to resign, and specifically they're saying that Lovely Warren kind of had political motivations in this. We could have talked about this after the George Floyd stuff came out, right? We could have talked about what immediately should Rochester City Council do in response to the push for police reform, knowing that an incident like this happened locally too. Whether or not that's valid, I'll let you guys figure that out. I'm not gonna opine on that right now. But who else is listening? We got Eric listening. Thanks, Eric. Valerie saying, I fear Rochester's going to burn in future days. And Valerie saying, maybe not from Rochester residents, but maybe outside agitators. And pray I'm wrong. I'm worried about that too. I live in the city. When the riots happened a few months ago, again, there are businesses in my neighborhood who were vandalized and looted. Liquor store in my neighborhood, an immigrant-owned Chinese food restaurant, got their windows smashed in. Yeah, no, we don't want to see that. I think most people, they are frustrated with incidents like this, and they don't want to see this stuff happen. And it's incredibly frustrating to see the folks who take out their maybe justifiable rage on innocent business owners and homeowners who had nothing to do with this police incident, and yet it's their livelihoods who are being destroyed. And I get that is a reaction that happens, but I can't in any way justify that. And I get really frustrated with the people who do justify, like, oh no, it's okay, they have insurance, and the police are killing people, so how can you be more mad at the looters? I'm like, I'm not more mad at the looters, but I can still be mad at the people who are doing that stuff, the people who are taking advantage of the frustration and the rage and the chaos to go and destroy people's livelihoods. And insurance doesn't always cover these things. It doesn't. Insurance covers some of your loss. It doesn't always make you whole. And if you are physically unable to do your business for a while because someone destroys your business, you have hurt someone. That is an act of violence. I really hope no one resorts to that. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope things stay peaceful, and that's on the people who are protesting and the people who are just going to try to take advantage of that situation, and it's on the police. It's on everyone. As a community, we should come together, look at situations like this, and try to find good solutions and not let that rage overtake us. I get it. We can't let that overtake us. Let's see, we got another comment from Von Sings. Awful funny this surfaces when the mayor is being investigated for illegal campaign donations. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. We might spend, a whole other show talking about everything that's going on with the Democratic Party in Monroe County, both from the mayor's perspective, because there's a state investigation going on with basically illegal donations between her campaign and PAC. We'll do a whole thing on that. It's just that things are piling on for the mayor right now, Mayor Warren, and we'll do a whole other show on that. That's definitely a thing. Another comment from Josh saying, so Rochester had someone overdose and blamed to death on officers, and then saying that we're not talking about the real cause of death of George Floyd, lies and propaganda pushed by BLM, the media, and the Democrats who are funding Antifa and BLM. And then Josh is saying he's upset with the Libertarian Party because of this. Yeah, I know, Josh. I saw your other comment. With the George Floyd thing, so there's a discussion that he had fentanyl in his system. But I think it's, to me, it's pretty clear even if you have a drug in your system. In George Floyd's case, if you have someone putting the weight of your knee on your neck for 8 minutes and 45 seconds, that is the actual cause of death, even if he was under the influence of other drugs at the time. And I think the same thing with this guy, and that's why I'm trying not to sensationalize it too much, because there is a possibility that there are other contributing factors to this, but it seems like anytime that someone dies in police custody or as a result of police actions like this, it at very least needs to be investigated. In this case, at least it is. In other cases, like the Breonna Taylor case, it isn't. It looks like there could be charges pending for these officers. They are still on duty right now, which is a source of conflict or being upset for a lot of people. So for the people who were out protesting last night at Jefferson and Samuel McCree Way, that was one of their calls, is that the officers need to be fired or right away. And and I think it's fair to ask, why are they still on duty? And if the chief of police thought this was serious enough to ask the DA whether or not there should be criminal charges, should they be out on the street? I don't know. I don't know how these things work. If any of you have worked as a police officer before and have a thought on this, give us a call, 585-346-3000. Let me know. Let me know how this works. How is it supposed to work? Should people who are potentially using violence and hurting members of the community continue to be on duty? That's the way I see it. But again, even if this gentleman was on PC, he was on PCP. It seems like that's what it was. He had some of that in his system. I don't know how much that contributed to this guy's death, and that's what we'll see out of the New York State Attorney General's investigation. The medical examiner is saying that it was a homicide, though. They called it a homicide. They said it was complications related to the restraint. That's what they said it was. Another comment saying, yeah, this is on the news everywhere now. Univision, Chicago local. Yeah, no, I've seen it all over now. I saw like the Daily Mail reporting on it this morning. And because there are so many overlaps with this somewhat similar story of George Floyd, where a guy was, allegedly, well, he died in police custody. That's all we know for sure. That seems to be related to police restraints. And, and then the added effect of this was something that happened 6 months ago. So why didn't the public know about it? Does the public have a right to know about situations like this? And, one of the other questions I get asked is like, could the family have said something about it? I don't know. I don't know if there's any reason why the family might not have done it. I understand that the family's kind of pushing that now, just because they were getting frustrated by lack of communication. And again, this is just what I've read on some of the stuff and seen some of the activists say. They were frustrated by the lack of communication coming from the mayor's office and from the police about the progress of the investigation. So I don't 100% know that's true, but that's what was said. All right. So next segment, we'll go into, well, can we do anything about this? Is there any path that makes sense here? Thanks again for listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to be back in just a few minutes.
Now, more than twice the power. WYSL. More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see a passing shower out there as a cold front moves through. Temperatures will drop into the 50s, will clear up by morning. On Friday, we'll see a mixture of sun and clouds, a cooler breeze. Temps in the 60s and 70s. On Saturday, we should have some fair weather. Again, another pleasantly cool day with temperatures in the 70s. I'm Rich Cadilia on WYSL.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
In honor of the late Bat McGrath, a well-known singer and songwriter from upstate New York, and a true friend of Camp Good Days, Lou Graham has donated a guitar signed by the past and present members of Foreigner. This guitar will be raffled off to raise money for Camp Good Days. The funds from this raffle will go directly towards renovating the music activity hut at Camp Good Days and Special Times recreational facility on Cuca Lake. The hut will be rededicated in memory of Bat McGrath. Raffle tickets are 1 for $10, 3 for $20. The winner will be announced at the Music Hut rededication at Camp Good Days recreational facility on a date to be announced. Visit campgooddays.org or call Camp Good Days office at 585-624-5555 for more information.
Did Mom leave the stove on again? Dad forget to take his pills? The senior citizen in your life deserves to be treated like family in every way, and you deserve the peace of mind that comes from knowing your older family member is getting personalized care, even though they're not yet ready for a nursing home. Consider Alpine Manor, founded in 1971 by owner Tim Kinsella, and just 20 minutes from Rochester in Lima, Livingston County. At Alpine Manor, there are supervised activities and medications, full laundry and housekeeping services provided to your loved one in immaculate surroundings. You can move to warmer regions secure in the knowledge that your loved one is well cared for back at home. You could qualify for $1,830 per month VA benefits or $1,176 per month for a surviving spouse. Alpine Manor, New York State Health Department licensed. Call 346-5880 for a no-obligation tour or information, or visit alpinemanor.com.
Parents, have peace of mind. Have your child tested for lead poisoning at age 1 and 2. Exposure can lead to lower IQ, behavior problems, hearing loss, and growth problems. Wash your children's hands, toys, and pacifiers, and serve foods high in iron, calcium, and vitamin C. For more information on lead poisoning or to request a lead test for your child, call your doctor or the Livingston County Department of Health at 243-7299.
Ready to Respond Training Services offers CPR, AED, and first aid training across Western New York and beyond. High-quality training from top educators and instructors who have worked in the EMS field. For more information, call 585-281-4208 or visit readytorespond.net. Inform, engage, equip, Ready to Respond Training Services. 585-281-4208.
This is Reverend David Kilgore, pastor of Lima Presbyterian Church. You may have heard that there was a fire at our church a couple of Sundays ago. So the question is, did an arsonist try to burn our church down? Or is the Holy Spirit trying to light a fire under our pants? You might want to find out. Tune in to WYSL on Sunday at 10:30 for our broadcast. Or you might want to look us up on the web at limapreschurch.org. Thank you, and God bless you.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate you being here and you listening. And if you want to participate in the conversation on the phone, give us a call, 585-346-3000. All right, so we're going to talk about what do we do next? What do we do from here? And I see people, not necessarily the listeners of this show, but I see other people like emphasizing like, hey, this was a black man, another black man has died at the hands of police. I do want to point out, and yes, that's true. And I've said before, both on this program and other programs, like I think there's an issue of the number as a percentage of population of people who die at the hands of police. And I think that's worth examining, that African Americans, that Black Americans die at a higher rate at the hands of police in proportion to their population for a number of reasons. And people talk about that in terms of systematic racism. Again, I'll let you guys evaluate that, but that's why people do that. But this isn't just a problem for Black Americans, though. I mean, there's a guy out in Arizona. His name is Ramon Lopez. He has white skin. He might be Hispanic, but he had died out in Phoenix on August 4th. He was loitering in a parking lot. Apparently, he was just kind of hanging out. People thought he was acting weird, so the police in Phoenix arrested him. It was 100 degrees that day, and they left him on the blacktop for 6 minutes. And after they moved him from the blacktop, after he had been laying down on it for 6 minutes, he stopped breathing, and he was dead. He died from that, it seems. And so, again, these types of situations, and that one we could talk about, like, should the police really be there for someone who's loitering? The 911 call said he was just hanging out and he had ripped pants and he like stuck his tongue out at the police or something. I don't know. And yeah, no one wants to see this, right? No one wants to see someone die in these situations. It's horrible. Like, that's not what we should expect from the police. And I think it builds mistrust, and I think police don't want this either. I'm not accusing police officers of wanting to hurt the people that they have taken on this job to protect. I'm not gonna impose those bad motivations on people, because I don't believe it. I think most police officers want to protect their community. I really do, and I know some of my friends on the left that they do not agree with me, and they tell me so, but I think most police officers are here to protect the community. And so one of the solutions that's being talked about, both in that Phoenix, Arizona situation and in the Rochester, New York situation with Daniel Prude, is, well, should police officers be the first persons to respond to mental health calls? And, I'll tell you I think it's a discussion worth having. I've talked about this before. We've said, should police officers respond to everything in these situations? Like, if a police officer isn't equipped to understand the particular nature of someone's mental illness and what it looks like when someone's in a mental health crisis and how to de-escalate that situation appropriately, police officers are going to do what they can to protect themselves first. And oftentimes, unfortunately, that means that the person who's having a mental health crisis gets hurt. People with mental illnesses are far more likely to be subject to police violence. They're far more likely to be subject to violence in general. I used to work kind of in the mental health field a little bit, kind of on the communications and marketing side, and learning about a lot of this stuff is most people with mental illnesses they're actually pretty unlikely to hurt you. It's more likely that they're going to get hurt in these situations. And I don't want to say that this isn't dangerous and that people can't get hurt in the process of dealing with someone with a mental health crisis. But if you have someone who is trained in this area, they might be able to de-escalate more effectively. And so what they do in some other places, like Eugene, Oregon, is doing this. And I want to do a whole show on this one. I want to get an actual expert in to talk about, what does this look like? Is this possible? Does it make sense? They have, if you call 911 and you're calling for like a mental health welfare check, that instead of sending out just police officers, you have like a social worker and like a mental health professional go out and try to deal with it first, unless someone's like, very clearly a danger to others. But if someone's just having a crisis, like Daniel Prude was, he's walking around the street naked in March, maybe police officers aren't the best person to deal with that situation. Maybe there's someone else who can try to deal with that first. And, it's worth discussing too. I know I hear people say like, well, shouldn't we have police on standby? Well, yeah, maybe that's what needs to happen too. But maybe you give these other people a chance to deal with it. Again, I want to do a whole show on this one, but it's not that crazy to say this is an avenue we should look at exploring, because there's actually a really interesting history of the police in many cities used to be the ambulance drivers, kind of the police officers who didn't want to be on other duty or were pulled off of kind of regular beat duty, would transfer people to hospitals. They would drive, they basically, if you called 911, you said, I need help getting to the hospital, the police would show up and they'd kind of basically take you in a paddy wagon, or sometimes it would be like a funeral director too. They would take you in a hearse, think about that, and they would get you to a hospital. And so that's how it used to work. We, in the 60s and early 70s, a lot of cities didn't have a paramedic corps. They didn't have like EMS services. You weren't getting assistance on the way to the hospital. It would be like the police transporting you. And then there's really interesting history in Philadelphia of this happening, where a lot of the black neighborhoods didn't want to do this because they felt like someone needed help getting to the hospital, and they felt like the police there were not very kind in getting them in the vehicles to transport them to the hospital. So that's how the paramedic services came about, is people wanted this alternative service, and they made it. And this duty that used to be part of the police department ended up getting shifted off into a new thing. So you just take that budget and move it over elsewhere. So it's not like this type of thing is unprecedented, that there are possibly better ways to respond to these incidents where police who may not be trained for this type of stuff, and again, I'm not going to put the bad intention on everyone, but they might not be trained in this type of stuff as effectively. You can have different mental health professionals trying to address that in a way that de-escalates, where they understand specifically what people are going through, and you're able to handle that situation maybe more safely. Now, there are a bunch of other solutions we could talk about too. There's, we've talked about ending qualified immunity, so that's part of it too. There's a bill from Congressman Justin Amash, and what that does again is it if a police officer violates someone's constitutional rights, or if a police officer injures someone in the process of detaining them right now, right? The only way you can take them to court in civil court is if there's a pre-existing case of that exact same situation, proving that violates the constitutional rights of someone else. So effectively, is nearly impossible to sue police officers in civil court even if they're liable for what they've done. Now, you're able to get compensation and sue people in different ways, but oftentimes the taxpayer bears the burden of any of those costs. And that's why ending qualified immunity is important. And we talk about other reforms too, like police officers having personal liability insurance if a police officer is involved in too many incidents where they're injuring someone and they're having the insurance company is going to have to pay out multiple times, well, maybe the insurance company doesn't want to cover them anymore. So there's a way for the market to pull the bad police officers off, and they'll only want to insure the police officers who are not hurting people, the good ones, the ones who are able to do this. Because, again, we can acknowledge, even if you're very pro-police, you can acknowledge that there's some bad people out there. They're either reckless or they don't care, or maybe a few really do want to hurt people. I don't think that's most police officers. I really don't. I'm not really anti-cop, but I do want reform. I do want incidents like this to not happen. I think that's what we all want. I really do. We don't want to call 911 and have to worry that one of our relatives who's going through a crisis is going to be hurt or killed in the process. We want to be able to trust the police officers to be able to handle these situations effectively. I don't think that's unfair. I think that's what most people showing up to these rallies are looking for too. I know there's jerks out there. I know there's the communists and the Antifa and the black bloc folks who are just there to cause trouble. I don't think that's most people. I think most people just want to be safe. They want to trust their police. They want to know someone's going to be there when they call and they need help. All right. Thanks again for listening to Radio Free New York. We got one more segment after this. Might shift subjects a little bit. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. And again, thanks everyone for listening here on WYSL and on our friends at WACK out in New York, and WENY, the Patriot, down in the southern tier. You guys rock. And our friends online, too. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those. You guys are what makes our show interesting. We want to hear what you like about this show and talk about that stuff. And we got great engagement today, so thanks for being a part of the discussion, everyone who's sent us messages during the show. I was going to shift topics a little bit. I'll probably be covering this issue more, I want to talk about the, mental health thing. I want to talk about more reforms later on. I want to have some guests on to talk about this program, so it's not just me talking at you. As much as I'm sure you love hearing my voice, hearing from some other experts who are in this work, I think would be more informative. The only other thing I'm gonna leave with, and I'm not sure, who needs to hear this, but anyone listening to this, just have some grace. Remember that most of your neighbors just want to live in a safe, prosperous community. That's what most people want. Most people aren't here to cause trouble. Even the pro-police people aren't. I get frustrated when you make excuses for police violence too, but like most people just want to live in a safe, good community. Remember that when you take away most of the politics of this stuff, your average neighbor just wants the same things that you want. They want a good life for their family. They want to not get hurt. They want to build a strong community. That's what most people want. I really think that. I have a lot of optimism in humanity, and I know that partisans don't like that, but I still believe in people for the most part. And just when you're having discussions with your friends and neighbors, even if you disagree, try to give people grace. Try to look for areas where you can find agreement, and where we do have real problems, and there are. Again, Dana Prude died in police custody. We want to figure out why, and we want to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen in the future. That if someone's going through a mental health crisis, whoever responds to that should get them safe to wherever they need to go. I think that's a reasonable expectation. But yeah, we'll be talking about this more. Remember, try to give each other grace. Try to love each other a little bit. All right, I'm done preaching on that stuff, though. Since I only got a few minutes, I'll cover a short topic that's been interesting to me. Regarded to the CDC. So the CDC sent out a report about the deaths related to COVID-19. So we've seen some of those big numbers, like 176,000, 180,000. And the number that came out that I think has been a shock to a lot of people is that only 6% died from only COVID-19. And so you look at that number and you're like, all right, well, what does that mean? What does it do? And I've seen people imply that like, oh, well, like everyone else, like it really, the numbers of people who die from COVID-19 are much, much lower. And, I've dug into this a bit because I thought that too. It's like, oh, wow. Like, so I guess it's just not as serious. What's happening here? But here's what that report means. And you can tell me I'm full of it for believing this, but this is what I see this and I interpret this as, is that we kind of always knew that COVID-19 is killing people who are sick with other things, right? So if you're diabetic, if you have heart conditions, if you have lung cancer, if you have some other health problem going on, that COVID-19 is likely to exacerbate that. So when you see only 6% of people are dying from COVID-19 itself, that means they had no other comorbidities, so it's still killing people even if they were perfectly healthy otherwise. They had nothing else going on. But we always kind of knew if you were sick and then you get this, it's going to make the situation worse. And, people have kind of compared this to, when we were talking about people who died of HIV. A lot of people don't die of AIDS by itself. They are sick with AIDS, which makes their body weaker and unable to respond to other stuff. So they might have AIDS and then they get sick with another illness, their body's unable to fight it off. And so the HIV is still kind of the underlying cause of that, but it isn't what kills you directly. COVID-19 kind of similar thing, right? It's not really an undercount. It's just important to understand if you get sick with this and you're already sick with something else, it's going to make that situation work. And we can kind of compare that to if you have a heart condition and then you get cancer, we would probably and the cancer is what ends up killing you. It's that's what we describe it as, right? Like the cancer is what killed you. You wouldn't say like, well, it wasn't really the cancer because you had a heart condition. That's not really what's going on here. Again, I have my own criticisms of how the government has responded to the COVID-19 crisis, and my goodness, we have absolutely talked about that a ton, and I can still keep talking about that. It's interesting to see that the casinos are going to be open now in New York State, at least partially opening. I think I heard that earlier. We're also, again, we're seeing how businesses are able to respond to, bowling alleys being open at a fraction of their capacity, gyms being open at a fraction of their capacity. It's not really security theater, but like the sanitation theater that we're seeing, like, oh, well, we got to wipe everything off in this certain way, and that's going to make us feel safe. A lot of it's a bit ridiculous, and I'm still going to continue to be grumpy about the fact that I can't just go and order a beer somewhere. It's so dumb. I've sat at a table, and I swear, like, every time I do it, I've been out to a restaurant several times now, but I sit at a table, and every time, like, the waitress or, like, the bartender, whoever's, like, serving me at that point, I'm like, oh, can I get, such and such stout? And they're just like, sorry, sir, but per New York State rules, you have to order a substantive food item with that. And, like, they're just always so, like, dumbfounded, just like, why is this a thing? COVID-19 serious thing. It's really hurting people in this area, in the Finger Lakes region. It's very low. I feel like I can order a beer on its own. I feel like that's something I do. I'm gonna go out to a place tonight. Like, I feel like I should be able to just order a beer. There's nothing wrong. When do we get to just do that again? No, come on. This is ridiculous. It's again, this is the government, and most of the responses to this are just the government looking like they're trying to do something, looking like they have control of this situation. It's all a ruse, all of it. Oh well, all right. But yeah, that's my point was though about the whole CDC thing is, again, take an actual dive in that data. I approached this with skepticism, but I'm kind of won over on that one. Is how many people actually died of it? Yeah, that number, the 176,000 number, that's actually how many people died. The people who are sick with other stuff, they're going to be affected worse by COVID-19. So still be careful, right? Don't if you get sick, don't be around your neighbors or don't be around your friends. Be careful, but like also, I hope we can start living our lives a little bit more. Take it an appropriate amount of caution, and by appropriate, I don't think that we need to wait on the government to tell us what is and isn't safe. We don't need to wait on Governor Cuomo to tell us that whether or not it's safe to have a drink on our own. We don't need to rely on the government for that stuff. Use your own common sense. Do some research on your own. Live your life. Be free. All right, that's all I got for Radio Free New York today. Thanks again for joining us for both these discussions. I'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you then.